Welcome to Legacy Engineered, the show where smart structure meets lasting success. Join Scott Arden, Chairman and CEO of Controllers Limited, as he sits down with business leaders, top entrepreneurs, and experts to uncover the strategies, stories, and structures that build lasting legacies. And now, here's your host, Scott Arden.
Welcome back to Legacy Engineered. I'm your host, Scott Arden, and today I'm joined by someone who has helped thousands of people completely transform their financial lives, the one and only Loral Langemeier. Loral's a six-time New York Times bestselling author known as the Millionaire Maker, and she's built an empire teaching people how to create wealth that lasts. On this episode, we're diving into how the right financial structures, corporations, LLCs, and trusts can protect, multiply, and transfer wealth for generations. Loral, welcome to Legacy Engineered.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Great to have you. So, Loral, you've coached many entrepreneurs at every stage of their life. Let's start with mindset, because really that's where wealth management starts, right?
Yeah, it does. And it starts, I think, not just with the mindset, it's the just your desire. When I was 17 years old, I was given the book Think and Grow Rich. And that whole chapter is still one of my favorite chapters of having a burning desire. And growing up on a farm in Nebraska, it wasn't like it was a bad life. It was great. And I wanted more. And I wanted more for me, my kids. And I always heard about this little concept called a legacy. And they wrote about it a lot in Think and Grow Rich. And so it changes you, because you start thinking about who are you spending time with? Are you spending time with people who are going to help support you to get there? What are you doing every day? How are your thoughts? I think for the listening audience to know too, since I was 21, I started working with Bob Proctor. I mean, Bob was a huge life-changing person for me. And then he brought me into The Secret. So if you guys haven't seen that movie, it's out on Netflix. You can go check out The Secret. It came out in 2006 or 7. It's an oldie but goodie. But yeah, your mindset and how you think and your desire for it. And as we talk and teach in our courses together, Scott, it's your commitment. Do you really want it? It's not like putting your toe in the water and saying, well, maybe I'll get there. I'm going to figure it out.
Interested or committed, right?
Yeah, it's absolute commitment.
Awesome. Yeah. So, many people start their businesses with a great idea, but not great structure. So why do you believe that it's, important for them to have the right entity like corporation or LLC from day one?
It is day one. And as you know me, Scott, and I'm just going to disclose to our listeners, you and I own Generational Wealth Systems together. And we do a lot in the trust and legacy category. And a properly structured estate legacy starts even with anything, a business. And my kids are 18 years old. Scott set up their entities. We still have to activate my daughter's, but now she's a pilot. So she's just going to pick up one from the past and take that one, our aviation company. But the company allows you to make money. Right. And I created this tagline called Living Corporate Life, because when your companies make money, your LLC, your S Corp, your C Corp, limited partnerships in some situations, when your company makes money, you activate the greatest tax code in the world. Currently 81,000 pages, headed to 83 with the big, beautiful law. And, like I don't own a phone, I don't own a car, I don't own a house, and I don't make a lot of money. My companies do all the heavy lifting. They get the deductions because I, Loral Langemeier, as an individual, I have no legal right to write off this little phone. So I think it's vital that you start that way. If you really want to get wealthy, you got to retain as much as you can. And if you're not activating the tax code, you're just doing the thing that most people do, what I call it invisible pain. You overpay tax.
Absolutely. I mean, we as individuals, as W-2, the taxes come right off the top. Sole prop, you got maybe 15 to 30 different deductions. But by activating that tax code like you're talking about, gives us upward of 233 to 305 different corporate write-offs, allowing far more use of our money up front, which ultimately results in paying a lot less in taxes, right?
A lot less. I did a quick little kind of back of the napkin calculation, Scott. And for the people who pay just in one category, if you overpay $10,000 in a year for the course of 20 years, invested around 12-13%, you'll have given 1.1 million to the IRS versus giving it to yourself. So when people say, oh, I can't be a millionaire, well, pay attention to the things that cause that to happen. If you just paid attention to how could you have taken $10,000 of business deductions or any kind of deductions like that? And most people don't pay attention. It's just, oh, I'll just give it to my CPA. And I think, I have a funny saying about CPAs. Most of them, not ours, like the ones that integrated wealth and through generational wealth and what we do, we have tax strategists, really strategic forecast forward people. But most CPAs are historians, right? They're going to take your box of stuff or your, your online, USB stick. Here's my year. And then they're just going to record your history. You can't change history, but you can change the future. And unless you get forecasting forward and what you can do to come up with a really, really strategic low tax basis, then you're just letting it, be to chance. And most people do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, we talk about that, at controllers all the time, the importance of the proper structure because, structure drives strategy, right? So,
Always, always. I saw you drinking your goated, so I thought I'd join you.
well, yeah. So remember
Oh,
I told you about
different.
the controllers energy drinks?
Yeah. Oh, good.
So
How come I don't
there's
get
our,
one?
well, I've got a case left that we took them out to the event that we were at, and we were kind of handing them out at our booth. But yeah, I still have some, and I'm going to order some more.
Awesome. I love that. That's just another company that Scott's going to create because that's what we do. The first thing
Yep,
I know for sure, because we've known each other for almost, most of our working careers, is just, I mean, our alignment to how we live corporate life, legacy life, and create businesses. I mean, the first thing, even when you get an idea, you start a company, in our opinion. And so
correct.
many of you're backwards. You have an opinion or you have an idea, and then you work hard on this idea. I just got a client yesterday, Scott, and they had this whole master class, and it's like, who told you to just build an 8-week master class? Has anybody paid you for it? Has anybody told you you wanted it? And they're like, no, I'll get to the company later. It's like, no, you start with the company and you start
Absolutely.
with marketing, asking people what they want, and then you design and build what they want. You don't just go to your backside bedroom, that's your office, and design something that you think people want. You've never even, and with social media, it's unexcusable at this point. I'll go that aggressive on our podcast, Scott, because it's unexcusable how people just are backwards in the way they start a company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, building the business, we want to start it from the right foundational components, right? Because as you build the business, instead of everything relying on your personal credit, the company has the ability to build credit. So, why use your own money to fund that project, especially if you're putting a lot of money into it? And like you said, if nobody wants it, you have the best product in the world, right? But nobody wants it. So, or you think you have the best product in the world, but nobody wants it. So, absolutely, it's always important to, know your audience and really survey what are people looking for, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Always.
So, well, I guess one of the things I know what we wanted to talk about was kind of more the trust and the legacy aspects, right? Is that
Yeah.
where we wanted to go with this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, perfect. So, now that or once someone has built wealth, well, the next step in protecting it is obviously making sure you have the right trust in place.
Mhm.
Everybody listening to this, all of our listeners, if you've heard, well, we're not in a probate state, or a will is good enough. Well, anybody telling you that is absolutely misinforming you, right? I mean, every person listening to this needs to have a comprehensive estate plan, and that's one of the things that our company, Generational Wealth Solutions, does is really identify the right trusts for their needs, whether it's a living trust with a beneficiary trust. Maybe you have a special needs child that we need to set up a special needs trust,
Yep.
things like that. So you want to expand a little bit more there?
Yeah, I mean, when we really delved into this in 2022, just because my kids are of that age, I came out with my sixth book, How Do You Make Your Kids Millionaires? So from that, later in the year, and you and I really put this together, we came up with a 3-day workshop. Scott's heavily all over in this on how to build a legacy, and we came up with this concept called the Power of Five because it isn't just generational wealth solutions and a lawyer. It also involves, right? I always say it's Power of Five, right? So I'm on the team. Scott's on the team for corporate. He does, corporate and trust. But there's a trust attorney that'll get assigned to you. There has to be tax. Has to be tax. And for those of you who really want to load up a legacy, especially those of you who were later in life and you haven't built a lot of wealth, but you want to, I say, pay it forward through life insurance, then you got to get proper life insurance funded to the trust. So to me, it's a very comprehensive and integrated approach to having these team members talk on your behalf. And like you just said, Scott, there are so many people. I mean, you and I roll our eyes consistently at those, even lawyers across different parts of the country or world who say, we're not a probate state or we're not a probate country or province. It's like, when you die, you're going to take a walk through the court and the county and the state that you're at. You can either give them part of it again because you don't care, or you just don't know that there is a way to have a very comprehensive estate plan. And the other thing too, Scott, let's talk about the trust is such a it's a non-recorded document. And
Right.
you're much more skilled to talk about that, but I think that's important for our listeners to know. The corporation is held at the Secretary of State level, like that's very documented, and everybody knows, who's the manager, who's the member, who's the officers. But when those companies are held in a trust, nobody sees those documents, but you, your executor, and your lawyer. Like it's not
Correct.
a recorded document for the whole world to say, oh, what's Laurel giving when I die, who's getting what? No one knows that. I mean, you do, the
Right.
majority of it, and my lawyer, and that's it. I mean, and my kids, like nobody else knows. So talk about there's such privacy in that I don't know that people realize it's staying out of probate for sure, but there's a level of privacy that individuals get when they start living that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, so trust is a legal agreement. Basically, it's stating, this is what I want to have happen upon my passing.
Mhm.
If we don't have a properly structured trust or comprehensive estate plan, as Lee were saying, it does go through the probate process. The problem with probate is it opens up the estate to the general public. So, again, exposing all of the assets to the world to say, hey, so and so passed away. This is the assets. If you feel you're entitled to a stake in this claim, come petition the court in the probate courts. And so, it avoids or it brings contest, if you will. So again, if the beneficiaries don't feel that they were received the right assets, or somebody from 20 years ago that maybe you had a falling out with, they come out of the woodwork and they say, hey, Scott promised me this. If something ever happened to him, that elongates the probate process. And so probate can take anywhere between 2 to 4 years, again, depending upon if there's no contest. And if there is, and as we've seen, right, in probate cases, some can last as long as, what was that, 34, 35 years now, right?
Yep.
And some of
Yep.
the largest billionaire families here in Northern Nevada, I mean, we're seeing their estates being torn apart because nobody can get along. I mean, these estates are just being diminished and dwindled down. And then you got to contend with the probate fees, right? The probate attorneys are going to take their 7 to 10%. And so by the time the beneficiaries actually get anything, it's 50 to 55% of its value is diminished. In addition, it's not just about what we're leaving to somebody, but if you become incapacitated, in a coma, unable to speak for yourself, that's what's called living probate, right? And so without a properly drafted DPOA, an advanced directive tied into the trust, now
Yep.
it's in the hands of the courts to be able to make those decisions on your health care. Do we keep them alive? Do we pull the plug? How do we disperse the assets? All of that. So that is one of the things that we focus on in developing that comprehensive estate plan. I ask people all the time, can I see a copy of your trust? And they send me just the trust agreement. And I'm like, well, this is cool. But are there other components to it? And so, and one of the other, go ahead.
No, I was just going to talk about what I call the 99-cent store. The companies that are online that, and I can say, I mean, it was the era of Susie Orman and PBS. Remember when she used to sell through PBS their little will and trust packets, or the little will trust? It was mostly a will. If you have a will, it's going to be okay. And I mean, she made, I don't even know, tens, probably 20, 30, $50 million on the backs of uneducated Americans. And they bought this little kit. I bought it, by the way, Scott. Did I show it to you? It's hysterical.
No.
It's like, it's something that you would like give your like elementary kid, where it's like a little tiny cardboard thing and it packages together like a little square. And then you open it up and it's basically about the stuff. Who gets the cars, who gets the jewelry, who gets the stuff, because that's what a will is. It's the stuff.
Right.
It's relevant. It doesn't keep you out of probate. It doesn't do anything. And I wouldn't say that she lied to the public, because she's not the only one, because there's a lot of what I call these 99-cent stores. There's all these little websites who's like, for $397 or $99, get a trust or get a will. It's like, well, that's not enough. And there's not enough breadth of education of what you just said. You've got to have the trust and all the components of the trust, and they all got to be in, they got to be notarized, they got to be, collective together and then kept up. Like I'm in the process right now because my daughter just turned 19, my son just got married. So it's a perfect time to redo the whole thing. I had a meeting yesterday with my estate lawyer, which then I go to tax and then I went to insurance. So you go to the whole team and make sure it's updated, at least on big life events, or what do you say, every 3 years minimum?
Yeah,
Minimum?
typically every 3 years, because people move, right? Wishes change. As you get older, you might, want your healthcare directive to be a little bit different. We may have a falling out with a trustee. One of the bigger things is, when I do a trust review and I'm like, do you still live at 1234 Main Street? And they're like, no, I sold that house three properties ago. Well, the trust still says that your beneficiaries get that house. So is your new house in there, right?
Okay.
So,
It's a lot.
and
When we were putting this together, Scott, I just want to share this 'cause I think for me, this was very definitive when we were putting this together. And Tom Ziegler, who's Zig Ziglar's son, is, still a big part of, if anybody needs corporate leadership training, I mean, he's got probably the best program in the country right now. But he also obviously came from the Ziegler estate. And the way he described legacy is just two things. It's the will, which is who gets the stuff, right? It's the stuff. But the legacy is what he called roots and wings, right? It's the depth of the values. It's the understanding of how the family is expected to operate. And then how is that built into the trust so you don't have these billionaire families breaking up? Because without a playbook, the kids and then the kids' kids and the kids' kids, because the statistic, I think it's still today, is 2.3 generations is when it's all blown. So if you look, because we're talking about the same one family, and there's three of them breaking up that I'm aware of in northern Nevada, which are very wealthy families. It wasn't the original kids. And it wasn't the kids' kids, it was their kids. It's at the great grandkid level, where the kids, there's no definitive blueprint. And all of a sudden, one of them became a really strong businessman, and you know who we're talking about, and just said, I'm not sharing this and doing all the work with you people. You just want to sit there and collect your checks and be trust fund babies. I'm going to roll and develop. And he's a huge developer. And the entire thing is breaking up because there's no blueprint on the legacy, the behavior, or guidelines. My favorite kinds of trusts are those that are of a non-depletion trust, where you basically write a business plan or you take a loan, but you can't just live on it till it's, depleted to nothing. So it's actually a growth, strategy. And a lot of those families, if you really think about the structure they create family offices, because that's how big the estate can be. It's like the Rockefellers. The Vanderbilts didn't do it. The Vanderbilts are broke. Now, I mean, they have a huge liberal institution in the, middle of Nashville, Tennessee, called their hospital, which is a disaster in my opinion. But there's just ways to design it being very purposeful. And I say that, I'm going to go all the way back to today. How does this affect you? I'm going to go back to our original conversation of corporate structure and tax. Those big legacy estates happen because you are mindful from 18, 19, 20 years old about the tax you pay. You're not going to give in your first 20 years of life $1 million to the IRS when you legally have corporate structures that could have put all that money to work. And, I don't know if you've ever tell people to get out their compounding calculator. I'm doing that more and more. I said, get out your compounding calculators, put one up on the internet. I don't care whose it is, and put in $1 million and a simple 8 or 10%. I mean, if you really want to have fun, put 15 or 20%. See how fast that can double. The rule 72, I think, slow, because you can get this down to doubling that million every 4 or 5 years invested, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's exciting. I get so excited about this. I get more excited than most people even listening.
Well, this is what we love doing, right? I mean, we've essentially built the legacy for our children, right? Or in my case, I've got my grandchild, my granddaughter.
Yeah.
So it
You
becomes
just
our.
you-
She is, and she just her hair keeps getting longer, and she just it's awesome. She's actually wanting to become a doctor. So well, yes, she does have me wrapped around her.
this,
She
this
is.
is this is the granddaughter, and this is Scott. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, and we're actually in process because, I recently got married. And so I'm actually in process of revamping my trust and changing some of the stuff, for the companies and all that good stuff. So it's, as we talk about, we've got to make those changes because life changes happen, right?
I
So,
think that is what makes our like what we do at the generational wealth solutions is just what we do in life is you and I more than anyone I know. That's probably why we have such an affinity. We thoroughly live this. We aren't
correct.
just the mouthpieces. We're not hired guns. We thoroughly live it. And then as we live it, in my case, I make big bestsellers about it. So basically, it's my life journey of not only becoming a millionaire, but then setting the structure for the kids and then giving you a blueprint for that. So I just want to say that because there's a lot of people who just talk out there. We talk and walk in the same direction.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So let's see, where do we want to go with this?
I want to talk to parents for a minute, if you don't
Okay,
mind. He's right
let's
there.
do that.
Because as I put this book, and I was sharing this with somebody last night at dinner, how writing this book had me really disappointed at the parents in the world. Because what I found is everybody says that they want their kids to learn about money. Well, the school's never going to teach it, and it never should be the place. It has to happen in the home. So they watch you, parents. They watch how you move. They watch how you talk. They watch how you spend money. They watch how you're a hypocrite with your money. I'm just going to say it. And then you give them this little device or some bigger device, switch, whatever you want to give them, and you let that be the parent called TikTok. And parents, you got to pay attention. You have to bring this conversation to your household. So, like my YouTube channel is family friendly. I have things as low as like I would say it's 5 years old and up can listen to my YouTube channel. Get Monopoly back on your kitchen table. Then go get cash flow, Kiyosaki's. I have a Millionaire Maker game. If you're serious about building a legacy, you have to grow these kids up properly. Now, if they're adults and grown adults, because how many situations do we have, Scott, with clients that they have millions to give away and it hasn't even occurred to them in their parenting that they should be talking to their kids about their assets. And
Yeah,
we're extremely alternative oriented, right? I mean, you and I are in the process of selling our shares of the black hole, right? The Raider fan base. And part of that on my side was my son is like, by the way, he got his federal law enforcement offer. He's on his way to
yeah,
DC. He
heard
just,
about that.
and
That's
you know which agency, so it's super cool.
beautiful.
So who would have known that? Like he's going to be a CPA and then he's going to go do that. He doesn't want to run the black hole. He doesn't want to run a Broadway play. He doesn't want to run anything too alternative. He wants kind of back to the basics. And I have a very alternative portfolio. So at 21, 22, I'm starting to explain everything to him. And now my daughter became a pilot. Like who knew that was going to happen? So the involvement of parents, I cannot scream from the rooftops and then all the way to what you're doing, Scott, as a grandfather, they have to know what's going on in the family. And so I just had to give a little shout out, scream, scold to the parents. Like if you want this, it's not just you and your partner. It's the family. And why do it? I mean, I've really been there with some of the clients. It's like, why are you building all this if you don't make those kids pay attention? Are you really
Well,
just want to trust fund babies?
right. It's giving them that financial literacy to truly understand what you're leaving them in that gift basket. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, is there's the inheritance
Yeah.
of what you're leaving somebody, but the legacy is what you leave in someone, right? How to deal with it and how to actually grow the wealth and be able to transfer it from generation to generation, not just go out and buy the new Lambo and the 10,000 square foot house. And then all of a sudden, you don't have any money to put gas in the tank. You don't have any money to pay the electricity bills. Like we see that happen all the time. A lot of that happens even in sports too,
Yeah.
right? With that
Oh,
NIL money.
oh,
So, putting that financial literacy, I mean, our parents, they never, we don't talk about money. Well, in our family, we do talk about money. Now, initially, early on, when my son was, in his teens, he really didn't want to have that conversation. He's like, Dad, I don't want to do what you do. And I asked him, I said, what do you
yeah.
think I do? He goes, Well, you sit behind a desk and talk on the phone all day. I said, Well, part of that's true, but really what I do is I help people build their legacy. This is what I teach people, and this is how we live. And so it didn't make sense for him at first, but then fast forward, I think he was 21. He came to me because he's a master mechanic for Dodge, right? And he realized that, yes, I'm making good money, but the taxes are coming right off the top. So how can I build a
Yeah.
business that's going to help me with that? And so now dear old dad is like, hey, can I ask you a question? And so it takes maybe a little bit of time. Obviously don't give up with your kids if they don't want to listen to you, But
Yeah.
if you consistently talk to them about it, they're eventually going to come back and say, you know what, I really need to listen to you and understand what we're doing here so that we can continue on this legacy of our family, the Arden family, in your case, the Langmeyer family, so on and so forth.
Because there is, there's consequences to not living it, which is you don't have to learn it. One of my favorite things when my kids were in that stage of, all we do is we get drug around the world. I mean, do you know the privilege of these children? They
Right.
go to every continent but Antarctica before they were 20, right? I mean, the privilege of that is enormous. But there was this thing of, but you always have to do a show. It's always a business trip. Why can't we take a vacation? We've never taken a vacation. I said, why would we ever? Now they get it. Now, like Tristan is a pilot, she's like, okay, I need to get commercials so I can start charging people as fast as I can. And then I'm going to fly you around again because she was 3 months old when she jumped in our first private plane. And it's funny that she's become the pilot, but she gets it now. But there was consequences for a long time when they were just like, oh, where do we have to go? And why do we have to listen to you? And all you're doing is, you talk on stage or like I said, sit behind a desk. And then I said, well, if you want a new mom, and I'm giving this fun fact because if you really have bratty kids, when mine were really bratty, I would say, they say, oh, I just want a different mom. I said, well, you are welcome to put an ad in the paper. That's my favorite. I love sharing that with my clients because what do you do? And I said, give them away. Like I said, I would take a kid with way more respect that actually wants to learn and see the value of what I'm doing for our family, and they'll come around. They'll come around. So put some consequences in, have some fun with it. But I think it's a decision. If I think about where we really get people, Scott, it's either a yes or a no. There's no way to live in between, like a kind of. It's
Right.
either you're all in, you live corporate life, those companies are held in a trust, and it's a lifetime journey. So many people that talk about being our big table, and you've been around almost the entire 25 years of it. They'll say, I'm in your program. And it's like, this isn't a program. This is a legacy lifestyle. Like this is how you live as a parent, as how you grow up your children. It's how you live in your businesses. It's just not a thing you do and you check the box.
Right. Right. Well, this has been, this conversation has been packed with a ton of value. Obviously, we've been doing this a long time, and it is our passion. And so, just kind of want to wrap up with a few maybe personal reflections, if possible. So, something along the lines of what would be what's one financial decision you made early on in life that
Mm.
completely changed your trajectory?
Oh, wow. When I was making a lot of money in a cushy little Chevron executive job in San Francisco on Market Street, and I got a bike across the Gate Bridge to work, and then happy hour on the boat home to Sausalito, living this bougie little life. And then Bob Proctor called me and said, there's this new group in town in Scottsdale, Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter, and they just wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, and they want, or not Think and Grow Rich, on Rich Dad Poor Dad. And they also have this game. It's not all developed yet. It's just on this plastic, literally, those plastic calendars you write on the wall. It was literally like on the back of one of those, all rolled up, drawn out. And that was the cash flow game when I met him. So Bob called and I met Chevron, and he said, if you really want to quit and transition your life to what you say you want, which is wealth building, not health building, because I was an exercise physiologist there. He said, then get on a plane and fly to Scottsdale, sit at Sharon Lechter's table and make a deal. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of deal to make. And so I left as the master distributor of the cash flow game, came home, quit this huge bougie job. And I shouldn't say the rest is history, but I did contract and I worked with the Kiyosaki group and the Rich Dad Poor Dad group for the first 4 or 5 years of my career. And then became a millionaire in real estate, millionaire in gas and oil, and then started, what was then Live Out Loud, now Integrated Wealth, wrote The Millionaire Maker. I mean, I shouldn't say the rest is history, but that move to completely change identities from living corporate life in a big, high tax job to just jumping I still look back and think, shit, that was risky. And it was because you know what? It would have opened another door. And that's how I coach people. If that door would have been the wrong one and you jumped in your parachute, you landed. I landed. I was doing okay. It was not fun the first few years because I wasn't a good entrepreneur. So I'd
Right.
say the other reflection would be, man, teach your kids to be entrepreneurs as fast as you can because entrepreneurialism is where the freedom is. It's not a big corporate cushy job. We saw that in COVID. I mean, there couldn't have been a bigger distinction. March 7th, I mean, you and I had just done a show right around that time in Reno. And
Well, I think it was that day that we got the notification that everything shut down. The world has shut down.
You're right. It was that day. And I remember looking at each other. It was just like the weirdest experience. Like, what the hell does that mean? The world is shut down. Everyone's just going home. Like, I'm not a homebot. Like, I love my home. I love being alone, but we can't even go to a grocery store. Like, I'll never forget that. But if anyone thinks that corporate jobs are your security because you get benefits, you are insane. I will leave it with that. Scott, I'm just going to give one website for if anybody has any questions, they can go to Ask Loral, AskLoral, ask a question, make a request, and make this an important decision for you and your family and lead it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Loral, I want to thank you for joining us on Legacy Engineered. You've given our listeners ton of clarity on structure, strategy. I think we kind of went through a lot of different things to clarify how to, or steps and ideas to consider in creating generational wealth. And so I thank you for that. And for everyone tuning in, if you're ready to take the next step to protect your assets, build a legacy, and create generational wealth, I want you to visit controllersltd.com. Go ahead and schedule a complimentary strategy session. And I look forward to seeing y'all in our next podcast. Take care, Loral. Thank you. Have an awesome day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Legacy Engineered. For more episodes and to connect with Scott and the team at Controllers Limited, visit controllersltd.com. You can also follow Scott on Instagram and LinkedIn and start building your legacy with confidence today.